a disco ball. Okay, first of all, we're staying with the ball theme. Okay. So when we can just for a moment stand or sit, mashenoach, and just imagine that ball beneath our feet. We can start with the ball beneath our feet, just to kind of place them somehow on the ground. ואם אני יושבת, so I do the same with my sitting bones. אני כאילו פורסת את עצמי מסביב לכדור. את על כדור? רז? או על כיסא? Anyway. לא, את לא חייבת, זה רק מגניב. Okay, great. So you can sit on the ball, but we're standing on the ball. וממש, before we start the actual disco and the lights and the mirrors breaking, let's just connect to that sensation through our heels. Just find a ball in your heel and allow your whole leg to kind of roam around the ball underneath your right foot and underneath your left foot. And let's add some balls in our knees and just balling them. It's not the sliding and gliding. We're just getting the sensation of a roundness in our joints. And we can lift it up to our hips. And we can mamash play around rega with the roundness of our pelvis, front and back and to the sides. And each time I take the ball, I play with it like Magedet Atidot kind of idea in my body. And I can climb up each vertebra rega, allow, again, a certain softness to enter our body. And as I climb up, kind of as I gather my thoughts together, get a little smile on our face and allow our head to become that top vertebra, that top ball, and just allow it to mamash run free over all the rest of the vertebrae. And as we do that, we can connect to our shoulders, already bowling them a bit, and a bit of boldness in our elbows to add. So this kind of when we address the boldness of the movement in our wrists, maybe in our fingers somehow. Here we have that softness quality in our movement. And we can start mamash small and soft, and we can go big and kind of comfortable or long movement, but it's constantly seeking the roundness within our joints, where our bones meet, in our vertebrae. We can bring it into our chin, into our jaws, into the back of our head. Again, if we rotate that top ball, have the back rotate as well. And as we're going to bring in the idea of the disco ball, so we can just begin by adding these mirrors, acting as these little prisms onto the ball. So if we shine a light, let's take our hip. Let's simplify it onto one area. Okay, if we have the roundness of our pelvis and our hip, and keep going with the rest of the body, but think of adding on all these mirrors and just making our pelvis this disco ball, and the lights will break from the mirrors, all these little mirrors, and we'll get these little prisms. So what kind of tnu'ah would I get? What would be the movement in my pelvis if it were breaking lights. As I break the movement in my pelvis, having it shining all around, doesn't only shine down, it shines up, it shines to the sides. It shines, well, not inwards, but like far away, taking it away from my pelvis into the walls. And I'm just giving all these lights, all these breakings of the light on my disco ball to echo through my thighs towards my knees. So maybe I can add on 2 little disco balls in my knees. And then instead of this roundness, or benosaf, it's not instead, we're adding to the roundness of it those little breakings. So we get those little shakes and vibrate in our knees, and we can bring it into our heels. So we're already combining the 2 movements of the soft and long and round. It's not sharp. The mirrors aren't sharp, even though we can look at Karnei Or as sharp, but it's more like glittering lights from the disco ball. And then we can add into our feet, mamash underneath, into our toes, into the inside of our foot, into our outside of the foot. And the top, for now, is still with the roundness. So if I can have my pelvis and down, perform this shimmering light of a disco ball, and the upper part, the vertebrae up from, let's say, our navel upwards, are still round, maybe now even with a bit of sense of trying to stable itself over the quaky, shaky feet, legs, and pelvis. And see how it echoes into the shoulders, resonates with our head. What happens with my head movement now? I'm not yet with the disco light up in my head, but I'm resonating already with my pelvis and knees and bottom part, seeing how they correspond, my knees with my elbows, my feet with my palms, with my hands. And let's add disco balls up our back. And let's take a moment with each vertebra in our imagination. We don't have to be very specific which vertebra. Just climbing up with those breaking lights of each disco ball that I'm putting on my back, from my lower back, through the middle of the back. See what happens with the shoulder blades as I add those shimmering lights of the ball under them. What happens in my chest, in my sternum? What about my elbows, my armpits, my wrists, my fingers? And have it all shimmering. Let's keep our head still in a ball phase without the little mirrors. It hasn't stepped into the disco yet. It just follows. Can it lead at times? Just keeping a softness up in my head, maybe getting already a tingle up my body. Through these lights. And what happens if I add in, mamash, taking my head, if we said before, the main vertebra, what happens if that becomes the main disco ball? What would I be looking at? Where would my nose be? Where would my cheeks be? Would it be big? Can it be small? And we can walk around the room with it a bit, or spin around the ball a bit with it. Just take it around, and maybe we'll add some disco lights from the bottom to give it upwards sensation and motions, to go up. And we expand to the walls. We expand beyond the walls. Mamash, allow ourselves to shine. See if we can take this disco ball out with us even after the session. Walking around, glimmering, shimmering, smiling, flickering. Oh. And I'm going to bring in the song. She's a young performer, but she's doing disco style. She's great. And we'll just let her take us. She's just funky and, well, you'll hear. And as we are so expanded from outside, or from where we reach. Slowly bring that little disco sensation back into our body, keeping it inwards. This time, as if we're reverting the ball inwards. And now it's shining towards the joints, towards our bones. And we can feel it very plainly in our feet, or מאוד ברור, in our feet, in our knees, in our pelvis. They have all these sizes of these balls, so we're kind of picking a small one up through our vertebrae. Each vertebra may be a shoulder blade and an armpit and an elbow rega. Our wrists and our fingers. All the way up into our head. Still having our head as that big one, that big ball that shines far, the furthest. Away. And kind of as if we're turning off the lights, but the ball stays. All the edges. And we keep it inside. זהו, דיסקו.